Yeah.
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
It is Scotch for Dummies.
Woo! Four
Thursday.
guys. What are we doing?
Four guys.
We're licking our wounds.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm not.
I'm not.
We just got beat.
Four guys on a Scotch
Two of us.
journey to help you with your next Scotch purchase, but you may not want to.
It's not going to be $1,000 worth of
What are you
SMWS,
talking about?
I can tell you that.
All right, before we get knee deep into this, hats off to Scotch in the Bayou. Gentlemen,
Cheers.
happy
Cheers.
Thursday. Happy
Well, we
Thursday
probably
to all
need-
you.
If we're going to lose to somebody,
We need context because this is in replay.
So we just got off of an SMWS blind tasting challenge bracket, and it was a close battle. We went 4 rounds with Lee and Scotch in the Bayou, and she came out on top. So good to her. It was a tough.
It was your fault, but yes. It was
Here's
your
the
fault.
thing.
Lane.
getting beat by the person who's going to win the whole thing, there's no shame.
That's
in that.
okay with that,
That's a good
right?
approach. Good
Second
approach.
place, the first loser.
I'm glad she won, though, because
I
it
am too.
showcased how good she really
She's
is. Like,
really
she's
good.
very
We've been sweating it all week on who's going to do this. I don't want to lose.
I know, because she's good.
All right. So anyway, big show tonight. We're getting back into wrapping up the King of the Hill.
Yeah.
And tonight is
The #1 peated Scotch of the year.
voila.
Realize.
Hell of a
So-
category.
Man,
So we've got 2 sealed envelopes. We're halfway through this.
Right. We've
situation.
already wrapped up the blended
no. Yes, blended and sherried.
and
Correct.
sherried categories. So we have already written down our scores for those kings, if you will.
They're
They're
sealed.
Still sealed. Have no
Sealed.
idea what it looks like. And tonight we're going to do the same for peated, but we're going to talk about the story of this category.
It's a long story.
It is. It's a big category. And just to add, if you notice, we started a little early tonight.
We did start a little early. Why would we start early? Bob H says it's because we're old. Yeah, we know.
It is true, but we're going to do
But
a
it's not
long
that.
show tonight. We're going extra long because we have a special guest. He's sitting
Three-
over there.
It's a 3-hour extravaganza.
We're going to bring him out in a little bit. He's a friend of the show, but it's going to be an interesting
excited
story,
about it.
and it's going to be fun to talk about.
Hang around to that part of the show because it's going to be fun. It's a pretty cool and good story that we want to share with you. Let's say hi to who we got.
You
here.
got it.
You know, we were afraid starting 30 minutes early that we'd be lacking in folks, but 25
Nope.
of you were waiting while we got here. And
Love it.
who
We
was
got-
first?
What? Hold on. Who are you going to guess is first?
Tom.
Tamar.
Good for him.
Pierre,
It's
though.
good for
Pierre
him.
is second. What's up, Pierre? Good to see you, sir.
Pierre. Cheers to you.
Trooper.
Man.
And Trooper's
Trooper?
taking third.
Is Trooper on? He's home.
I like that you're home and pouring a dram. Good for you.
I do
Good for you.
too.
Good for you.
Loch Ness?
Loch
You
Ness.
know, I had a peated in here. I guess I don't need to rinse it out.
Yeah, I think you're
You
going to
did
be
good, man.
because we gotta have a clean glass to do the.
I'll do that later, but I'm going to start with one that held the title for quite a while.
Jake. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But Daniel, good to see you. Bob H. We were just talking about you.
I poured a Lacheg 10, and Andrew gave me a look of despair like he was worried.
Woo. Tom Walker
gonna
already
taste
had a
different
log
after
of
that.
16, thinking maybe I should go with a Dalmore 15. That's a big difference.
This is
But
peated night.
We're not going to stop you.
Wait,
No.
time out. Put that back up.
That's
Tom,
okay.
Tom,
Should I try?
what is that?
It's
Is that
a
like a
Barracuda?
42-inch Northern Pike you got there? It's
So,
hard to
that's very
tell,
nice.
but
Get the
I've
fishermen
never gotten an
excited.
invite to go fishing.
Not to fish shame, but
All you gotta do is invite a guy. I'll
Hey,
bring the
Steven.
scotch.
Hey, look at Mr. Balcones is on.
good for him.
Hey, Zach.
Hey, Mania.
No, it's Mr. Diageo now.
That's
Oh.
whoa.
Oh.
Wow.
Go down to Jared.
Magnus Van Brunt, 12-year-old H2O.
It's 12-year-old water, buddy.
He's got to work tomorrow.
By the way, patrons, sorry to miss you on the pre-show. We'll get you later, but we were pretty busy with getting our butts kicked.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
Like I
that's
said, look at
pretty
our
embarrassing.
Yeah. What else we got?
Say hi
here,
to
guys?
Jared.
Jared!
What that Tam do?
Look at Cohen at the bottom there.
Good
Just
for you,
twist your
man.
arm. That's difficult.
I'll get to him.
Yep.
Cheers, Chad. Good to see
Oh,
you.
Chad, hey, good to see you.
Glenn Farkless in the glass. A peated one at that? Did
Well,
you-
wasn't that the gunfire you guys tasted?
No.
Oh, no.
it's
Ah,
not, but
different.
that,
different.
an 8-year-old peated Farkless.
No,
There you go.
Frank, good to see you. It's been a while.
Heck yeah. I'm with Frank. I
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
you.
Yeah.
We just
Purdue is getting. Oh.
We
Well,
don't, we don't want to hear that,
then
but
maybe next week.
we're
but-
not surprised.
Are they playing football tonight?
No, it's not.
Who's playing tonight in football?
Yeah.
I don't know. Who's
it's
the
Saturday.
college game
NFL.
tonight?
I don't know.
I know
Anyway,
the Big Ten
Fernando,
championship game is
Good
on.
evening, guys.
Saturday.
Nice to join you in the live stream. And now,
Uh,
well, you know what? Cheers,
cheers
to
to
you.
that,
Cheers
Thanks
to
for
you.
joining us. It's good
We'll
to
take
see you
that.
here.
all right. Let's get going here, guys. I'm going to bring up this category here where this chat's going on, but
Zach's upset that I Call them Mr. Diageo.
I know he's mad.
You're gonna have to.
So,
deal with this.
guys, Pete, we've gone through
Yes.
King of the Hill. It's been a fun ride, right? I mean,
Man, this was
woo,
a big category.
This guy was the biggest one.
So this
Wonder
category
why.
took off. I mean, honestly, we had like 6 fights into the Peated, and we hadn't even started the ex-bourbon category.
I know.
Well, so
Honestly, I think it's funny because there's not that many distilleries that do peated Scotch in total, right? Like as a percentage of the Scotch distilleries.
correct. The beauty with peated though is there's a lot in that 8 to 10-year-old category.
Yeah.
That is
So
true.
there's a lot in that $50 to $65 range that could be in this category for this fight.
It brings a good point. If you think about it, as far as market share in the Scotch industry, just how much of a share peated whiskey shares. It's more than let's say there's 140 distilleries in Scotland, and there's only 30 of them doing peated whiskey. They pull more weight, is what I'm trying to say.
They're a big swinger when you talk about percentages.
From a
I think.
volume, I don't know though.
I think that
It's interesting
you get
stat. I
you
don't
get
know.
a little bit more single malt from those distilleries, maybe because
Yeah,
the
that's fair.
unpeated distilleries are sending at least a lot of them are
Right.
sending to
Blend.
blended,
That's
and
right.
and that's the largest part of
Which
the
I
Scotch
think- I
industry.
can only think of one that's sending to blends in the peated. What Colila is probably the
Yeah.
only
well,
one. that
and
I
not
know
a
that-
big amount anyway, because they just want like a little bit. It's like pepper in the seasonings,
Right.
you know. They don't need a whole lot. So I feel like I mean there are a lot of options, I guess.
So without even looking at what Drew has pulled up in front of us as far as the whole fight, the whole season, if you will, looking at the bottles, I look at the bottles and just look at them individually and think, yes, 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 yes. Yeah, they're all.
Maybe not, but
There's only, this is the only one I'd be like,
I did
yeah, about that
I
one.
did skip one, but I mean, seriously, a quarter cask, you probably can't even
Oh,
see
my
over there. I
gosh.
mean, can you guys remember when we fell in love with that bottle?
Yeah, absolutely. Cake
I
batter.
have this bottle and this bottle on my bar
All
always.
the time.
I
So
never,
which are
never
those?
leaves. The
Quarter
Ardbeg
cask?
10 and the quarter
Big Ten,
cask.
yeah.
Yeah, those are staples.
For the
and-
price point, why would
And our winner. Like I usually
So,
have a bottle of that.
They're all, I mean, they're all pretty much kind of at the same price for the most part.
Arguably,
that was the goal.
within $10 probably.
Yeah.
ABVs very close too. So I mean, these and the big key readily available for the most part.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
these
You'll
are
find
true.
most of these anywhere you go.
I hope you will. I mean, if you're not, you're in a bad market.
Any
We're not the
reputable
best.
liquor store is gonna like. There's some that you're gonna find. Like these two, you'll probably find.
And grocery stores.
Yeah, I mean they're
Quarter
all
cask,
over
you'll
the
find a
place.
lot. Our Big Ten, yeah.
And then some of them, this one you'll probably find a lot of places.
We
Some of them will
basically
be a
see a
little bit
lot.
harder to find, but they're readily available.
They are around.
Yeah, the Kilhoman you see a lot. Talisker's a little bit harder to find, but more is a little bit harder to find. Is that Port Charlotte?
What I do like is there's a bit of a difference in the style of peat.
I was just going to mention
Awesome.
when you look at this,
Almost
I would think most people that are just maybe beginning in the Scotch are like, this is all peated Scotch. True, but there's style of peats and other things going on. There's, I mean, one of the things we talk about is just smokiness or charcoal or
Iodine.
brisket
yeah,
or
pork barbecue, all the way to charcoal. That's
creosote.
super sweet.
Right.
Well, I think the thing that you like about them the most, and the thing that is interesting to me, is you get a variety of flavors, like interesting flavors that you can't find in other scotches,
Correct.
right? Flavor combinations or things that pop out that you're like, I've never had. Like I'm just having a drink of this mystery glass and got buttered popcorn, and I'm like, oh well, I don't usually get that, but it smells delicious. So
Yeah, I mean that's the thing about the peated category is based on, you get everything from that sweet barbecue to charcoal to
Medicinal.
earthy, to medicinal. All those all of those flavor components are all within that peated category, and it depends on where they got the peat. Depends on how they casked it after they peated it. I mean, all that
there's
kind of
science here.
I'm
There's
surprised there's
a
not
lot
a
of
Highland
science.
Park here in this. I mean, because it's a completely different style.
Well,
of peat,
yeah, we
but
didn't get
usually
to-
they're
we didn't
so
get to that.
lightly
But
peated.
to
that
me,
it wouldn't have,
there's not enough peat in it.
it wouldn't
to,
have
like,
hung. Right.
no.
It would have got whooped.
So we've got a lot of people have talked to us after this, and we'll admit when we first started this, we kind of didn't know what the hell we were doing,
Yeah.
right? At the
Fair
first,
point.
It was a
That's
fun
weird,
idea.
because normally we're very well planned.
Oh, cool. But there's talks about next year's plans, et cetera. I know we're getting close to the end of the year. I think there's definitely going to be another King of the Hill series next year, but done differently. I think maybe just some things we've learned from this year, right? Some different aspects of things versus because to your point, Highland Park, it's like, does that belong here? Who decides that? Like, what is it?
Well, how did we determine it here?
Right.
When it got down to it.
Well, it was a well-known peated, and it was in the price range.
Well, and then we actually opened it up and started reaching out to our patrons and said,
Yeah.
who do you want to see enter the ring? You know, give us some ideas of who you think is worthy of getting in the ring. And honestly, to give credit where credit's due, the whole idea came from a patron.
Yep.
Right. So everyone had reached out and said, and you know, kind of sold us this idea. And we're like, well, let's try it. And next thing you know, 9 months later, we were knee deep in it.
It was a lot of fun.
I mean, some of these bottles are only here because you on that side of the lens recommended they be in
That's
the
true.
ring.
I think my favorite part about the whole series was that they are readily available. I mean, you know, we've done some bottles that you can't go get.
Right.
And to me, this is a fun one that everybody can go out and try. And I was actually surprised.
Oh,
Well,
my God.
And ultimately humbled.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you know, it was a cool idea, but we didn't know what the hell we were drinking sometimes. We thought we did.
Oh,
But that's the beauty of the King of the
flipped it
Hill
every
is
time.
like this one. Well, yeah, this was the better winner right now.
Yep.
But to your point, it brought us back to our roots. It brought us
Yep.
back to Scotch for Dummies.
The
Why
journey.
did we start this channel? It was
Educational.
to help you make better educational purchases, right? And if you didn't get that out of this series, then you need to go back and
Well,
rewatch it.
How many Glenmorangie Lasantas did we probably help sell because of the series? Glenmo 10s, Lechegs. I've talked to a bunch of people that's reached out to me like, yeah, I had no idea. I'm buying it tomorrow. I mean, that's what the beauty about this is. We're sharing ideas. Hopefully,
And they don't have to break their bank to do it.
exactly.
Exactly. I've got a Lasanta on my bar and always will now because
You
it
should.
just made a showing this year. I was like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
But
So let's start with kind of how tail take, if you will.
Yeah.
You wanna do-
I feel like we started this one out like maybe a little unfairly. I'm not even going to lie.
Sure.
Lefroy Ardbeg, 10, 10?
But, I mean, to be
No,
fair,
this is quarter cask.
we came out
Oh, we don't have a 10, huh?
we came out swinging, right? Like
We don't have a 10.
like
Oh, yeah, we do.
to me, those are two real heavy hitters.
The Florida 10 and Ardbeg.
Like these are two staples on my bar. They never go away.
But to me,
And
this
I
is
love
when
both
we should have
bottles.
started.
And
But I mean,
and
these are like the major guys, though. What do you
I know,
think?
I know.
Every bar has this.
True. I'm not even going to argue with that, but it just feels like we should have like saved those for the end and like had some of the other ones like vie to get.
Like
to
these
that
should
level,
have an
right?
elite status in this
Yeah,
thing.
they
fair
should have
point.
caught a bye to the end of the
Caught a
fight,
bye.
right?
But the funny thing is, neither of them made it past week 2.
That I know, which is also crazy, but great fight.
Oh my God! It started off with just a banger. Like I honestly didn't know who was going to win. I came
Yeah.
into this going, man, I love them both. I hate that one has to lose. I don't know what's going to happen. And we go
Boom.
through 4 rounds, and who wins this one?
So Lefroy beat Ardbeg, which was kind of interesting, right?
I didn't expect that. I honestly think going into
That's
it,
very
I
polite.
thought Ardbeg was going to win just based on the notes, and I love them both. But I think in my mind, I was voting for. I was picking the Ardbeg.
Well, I mean, interestingly, and we were talking at dinner tonight. It's like everyone goes hospital. I mean, it's like one of those things you just get with
Medicinal.
medicinal,
Yep.
you know, all that
Right.
stuff, and the iodine qualities. But it, for some reason, it won.
It balanced better.
Balanced out better that night.
Well, I didn't have a favorite on this one because I love both bottles, and so I really did go in without. Like there were some of these fights that I was like, that bottle's going to kill this other bottle. But this one was one that I was like, I really had no idea because I really enjoyed both.
Yep.
And so it was just who was better that night.
What also comes into play is you go into this fight thinking, I know both of these familiar. I have gotten to know
Theoretically.
both.
How many
of
times have you had that bottle? I can tell you that I've had
Both
that
of
bottle
them.
at least 3
Right.
times.
I've
I
emptied a
know
couple of
these
those bottles.
girls.
by
I had it
myself,
tonight.
yeah.
and then
Right.
we go into a blind, and I'm thinking, yes, I know both of these. And when the reveal comes, I'm like, I know nothing. Like, what the
That's
hell
the beauty of
just
well, we got
happened?
our tails kicked earlier. That's the beauty because you're not on trial.
It's the
The
whiskey.
whiskey's on trial.
Right. But experience does come along, and you do build a memory of things. And I guess that my point on that is sometimes you need to revisit things because your memory is not going to be the same based upon the change of your experience as well.
Yeah.
Well, and we did find out as we did this whole series that it mattered which one went first.
Yes.
And so we started
We
doing
learned.
the coin
Yes,
flip
we
so
did.
we could figure
Yes.
out, to
Fair.
try and make it at least random which one got to go first. But I mean, it did make a difference. And I think maybe some whiskeys might have won just because they went first and we got to try them.
So Lafroy beat Ardbeg.
Ardbeg 10 goes down.
All right.
First round.
So
Mind blown.
it's out. This guy comes up, and guys, this one for us is
Talisker.
kind of, hit home because our first review was a Talisker, and I still remember our first tasting when we had
That
the
was
That was our
store.
first flight that we did.
Yeah, I mean, so
badass.
Talisker, and we had not had it in a long time, and I remember it coming out, and I was like, "Holy crap, Talisker's here to play!"
I gotta be honest,
it took out 10.
I didn't think it had a chance.
No.
In this category, I did not think Talisker 10.
Do you think peated when you think Talisker?
I
don't
do.
Generally,
I
no.
don't think peated enough to beat Lafroy 10.
I
Right.
think flavorful. How about that?
Yeah.
See, and that was what took it.
In
how it
fact,
took the title.
I'm gonna have a
I
glass
was
right
just
now.
going to say, why don't you pour me a wee bit, a finger on that? Because in my mind, right, thinking about what I'm going to taste here, I think peated, but a brininess of a peatness. Whereas on the Lafroy, I've got the iodine,
Yeah, that medicinal
more
quality,
medicinal, heavy, definitely more of a chimney. Whereas the Talisker, the first thing that comes to mind is not peat, it's brine. It's brine then peat.
Yeah, the
Well,
nose
yeah.
is not heavily peated.
It's a lot more vanilla and caramels going on with it too than.
Oh yeah, but it won. It beat. It took.
I think it was just a little more well balanced, a little
It
more
does.
flavorful,
Wow.
if I remember right.
When you take a sip of that, the nose is like, I'm not Pete. Don't worry about me. You take a sip, you're like, where you been? Holy
well,
moly.
it starts out this sweet caramely, and then it builds into that peat. I think that was the difference.
That's
Very
good.
good.
It was
That is so
Lafroy
good.
hits pretty hard with peat all the way up front, and it's like
And that's
What
it's
I like
also-
about it.
Yeah, right.
But-
Coming in
but-
like a
but-
freight train.
But Talisker has this transition that is really it was unique.
That's a
and that's
good
what won
bottle.
tonight.
That's
It's like
a good
speed
bottle.
metal versus an orchestra.
Okay.
Like,
A little bit.
so
Metallica did things
both
more-
good. Both good. Just, you got to be in the mood for one or the other.
All right, boys. So Talisker ends up beating that, and then who's it face next?
Port Charlotte.
Charlotte steps in.
I think you guys.
and
I don't remember doing that one.
Which then
so Port
killed it.
Charlotte. I mean, this is the peated category, and this is Port Charlotte heavily peated. right. So
yeah.
you expect this thing to come in like Mike Tyson,
and it did.
and it did.
And it
Yeah.
blew Talisker out of the water.
And it was like,
Yep.
get out of my category.
Poor
Yeah,
Talisker.
right.
You
Yeah.
did good though.
There's a lot of one-time winners in this
So-
category.
So then we came in with this kind of unknown Lacheg. I mean, it's
I
kind
heard
of,
about it.
This isn't
kind
something.
of unknown, not that important, right?
I'm gonna have to
Maybe
pull
not
it out.
amongst some of our lovers here. I mean,
How did we even? Was this something recommended? I don't even
It
remember
had to
how
be.
to.
Because
Probably
you-
got it.
that one's a little bit harder to find.
I know Bobby J got us a bottle.
It is
Yeah.
a wee bit harder to find. We were able to get it in our market. It was a bit of a drive the other side of Indianapolis, but I was able to get another bottle. Talking about Lacheg, I remember my first experience, Scotch for Dummies' first experience. Remember when we had Tobermory's rep
Oh,
down in
yes.
Sean's basement at the bar?
Oh,
I
yeah.
can't think of the guy's name right off the top of my head. We saw him at an event one time. He was a fun guy from Scotland, and he had brought some samples. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Explain this to me. There's Lacheg and there's Tobermory. There's two different.
Well, we call it Ladeg.
Right. Well, why? So never had one on my bar, really. I still
Yeah.
don't. And I
Oh,
need to
man.
because the thing ends up dethroning a huge
Would you ever
heavyweight.
think this would go down in the peated category?
No, it should have just reigned
Charlotte.
supreme.
Mike Tyson.
I can't believe Ardbeg or Lafroy went down to me.
Well, that's true.
Not only does it go down, but Lacheg stands in the middle of the ring
It
and
takes
just starts
out-
calling out people left and right.
So it takes out Wee Beastie, it takes out Makir Bay, it takes out Bullmore 12, and
And it finally loses.
it finally
But
loses.
still, look at this. Now, let's be honest.
It's not fair.
Those aren't very good categories.
I mean,
Let's-
but more maybe, but
This one probably came in a little young and
Yeah,
not
that's-
ready to fight.
I think
No.
this best battle was probably the Kill Holman, if I remember correctly.
Bowmore 12 is a standard offering from
Yeah.
Bowmore. It's readily available. I would have expected it to.
But
at
to
least
me,
go
it's
quite-
not quite as.
Not
Not as
nearly as
peated.
peated. More
It's
finesse.
a more of a finessey, flavorful Scotch.
Yeah.
I agree. I think the Kilhoma was probably
And
until
I
it
think it did pretty good
the,
against
The
Kill
Makir
Holman,
Bay
but-
is so lemony, and I didn't
Until
know
it-
that was.
Fine.
ran
now,
up
right now.
against an old school.
Then it hit the old school.
So
Let's see what.
so
this
these all
bracket
went
is.
down, and then Colila came in, and it
well,
Coela is like,
shut
boy, you
It-
don't know what you're
shut
talking
up.
about.
it does not play.
Now this is so Coela to me is and I think you're gonna
There's
reference
lemony.
it. It's barbecue creosote. Like it's a different like flavor profile.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
got more of the burnt ends kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
charry.
You're right about
Slightly
that.
spicy. Yeah,
You
that's
got you've
good.
got the profile down.
Like
on
your
that.
bay is not. Yeah, it's
So-
a little lemony.
Lecheg, which is a fan favorite, especially
It
patrons,
lost to Colila.
it went down
Boom.
out.
Out of here.
So next is Lagavulin 8, which we don't have a
We don't
bottle right
have
now.
a log.
It's like we drank the whole thing.
I don't know how to
I
do
took
it.
the spare down to my house. I thought we
It came in.
and beat Colila.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Lagavulin 8. So Lagavulin, Lagavulin is my distillery of choice. Like if you get
That's
on
your
a
island.
deserted island.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Lagavulin.
16. Yeah.
But I wouldn't have expected the 8 to beat the 12. 16 maybe because the 16
That
is
eight's
just refined.
delicious.
I
It
well, I
is,
think
but
the
it's also a
the
little
quality of their peat is exquisite, and their casking, they do a great job. of
Well,
casking.
and peat is the one thing that like you get more of as it's younger,
Yes.
and it's less potent and
Very
more
good point.
subtle and more nuanced as it grows older.
Example, any of you have ever had a chance to have a 30 or a 35-year-old peated, it's not going to have that punch. It's going to be lovely.
Yeah, you're like, is this a Highland?
But my God, is it delicious.
Yeah.
So it ends up taking down Colila, which was kind of a shock, and then comes in
Cake batter.
the cake batter. It took down Lefroy quarter cask.
Quick. It was no brainer. Lafroy.
I just can't believe that. Even thinking about it to this,
And then
Okay.
the big guy
The
came in.
rebel.
The anti what? This is what is
maybe
this?
not.
This is a
belongs in the
blended
category,
Scotch, a
'cause
blended
it's a
malt.
blend.
It's a blended malt. Wow, how
And
could
we
this
actually
be?
talked about that.
Yeah,
We did.
Because it is a blend, but it doesn't belong in the blended category because it's a
It would have
Scotch.
stood out like a sore
like
thumb.
you're not going to be. And so we were like, well, we should probably just throw it in, right? Like because it is a good quality.
And it's a blended
Scotch.
malt.
It
so
deserves a fight.
I
Yeah.
honestly, I was fine with throwing it in. I knew it would be good.
Yeah.
I had no idea it would do as good as it did.
So it took out Lagavulin 8
Yep. Took out log 8.
and was the king of the hill.
It was the king. It was the last King of the Hill that we
so
did.
it took the it took the belt in the last fight of the season.
That's right. And then we do our return, which was a few weeks ago, and then it was voted.
Everybody return means we put it out there for subscribers and patrons to vote on a return bottle, a second chance, and enough votes came in.
A lot of
for-
votes came in.
Now,
for the check down.
before we talk about the fight, which bottle did you guys think was going to come back?
Let's shake 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought for sure it was going to be like Jake 10. Which
I
one?
did.
What'd you
I,
think?
Maybe
I
Port
honestly
Charlotte?
thought it would be like an Ardbeg or a Lagavulin.
This is
Oh,
a
Just-
fan.
no. Okay. So I see what you're saying. No, I did think Lecheg because of it. held
It's a
it for
fan
about-
favorite.
It
so
held
long.
it for
It,
4
it
weeks.
really is,
yeah.
but I mean, in my mind, I was kind of like, everybody drinks those two. Like
Oh yeah.
they've
yeah.
got a huge fan following. Everybody loves them.
So to your point, I think
Whereas to me, Lecheg is a little bit more boutiquey. Like not everybody knows.
here's
that
what I think happened there. We gave patrons more weighted votes. They got 2 votes to 1 subscribers.
fair.
Patrons are more engaged, and patrons voted.
Yeah.
Subscribers out of 60,000 subscribers, the vote percentage was very low. I
Yeah.
think if more of our general subscribers, you might have seen what you were thinking. But this was also the patron favorite.
Yeah.
Well,
It
here's
was. They thought it was going to come back and kill it.
So
Here-
it came up. The Port Charlotte.
Yeah.
was the
Like it
next
wasn't
one.
even close.
Yeah. So to your point, I mean, I don't know. I don't have the
To break
numbers,
down
break it
between,
down
right.
for who voted for who. I could, but 20 votes went to Lecheg, 13 for Port Charlotte, and to your point, Sean, 6 for
Ardbeg and 5 for Lagavulin.
So
Wow.
Lagavulin 8.
20. I mean, you're right. It could have been a little bit more skewed because of patrons, but
But it is what it is.
I doubt it.
That's
So they
yeah.
voted it back.
They voted it back, and I thought this was going to be a hell of a fight. And I honestly thought Lecheg was going to win this fight going
did
into
too.
it. I really did. But at the end of the day, what happens? Who takes the
So
Lecheg brought a
Lecheg
knife
comes
to a
back in.
gunfight.
Lecheg brought a knife to a gunfight.
That's what we were going with. It came in, and Lecheg. I think it did. I think I voted for Lecheg, but it didn't hold up.
No.
It did not hold up, and
So-
it voted out. And technically,
So here it is. This is our champ. This is
Yep.
the king of the hill for the peated category
Of 2022
of
for
2022. So what happens is we are now going to pour a sample of this in our 4 glasses. We're going to go through a typical
We have a
Scotch for Dummies
tip top.
review, old school, like if you've watched any of our earlier videos or reviews, we're going to talk about it, go through some of our notes, nose, palates, finishes,
us.
whatnot.
Normal review.
But at the end of the day, when it comes time for us to score it on our good old fashioned 1, 2, 3, 4 score, we're going to write it down and seal it in an envelope. We are breaking down the voting to quarter points as opposed to half points, so we can have a 3.25 per se, just to try to make sure we don't end up with a tie. But you won't know until 2 weeks from now when we do the final review to find out which of the 4 kings.
And we
is-
won't know either.
No, we don't. We're putting them in a.
So,
So,
so you clean your
that's
glass.
fine.
I'll start pouring.
all right.
So tail of tape,
Tail of
Peat
the
Monster.
tape.
This is a 2022 bottling. Do we have that exactly? I don't remember exact.
I don't-
46% ABV, a blended malt whiskey from Compass Box. So Compass Box has access to great casks.
Mhm.
And what John Glacier and his staff did was they created a whiskey that they wanted to represent peat, and thus it is
So-
the king of the hill right now.
There are a few different versions of Peat Monster out there.
If you ever see the
Yeah, I
cask
think-
strength version, you should buy that.
You should buy it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. There's one here. Yeah. Which one's that?
Right. That's the.
That's original.
That's the original brown label. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the original.
That's not what we're talking about.
No.
This is the good old fashioned one. You should find on.
Both of these
shelf.
are good.
Yes.
They're very similar.
If you find that
so-
one, go ahead and buy it.
Yeah, I would buy this one too, the brown one.
That's probably
But
collectible at this point.
What we have here is just good old fashioned. What you're going to see on your shelves now. What was the price point on this?
$60.
$60.
And this is a blended malt, so there's no grain whiskey. It's all
Correct.
single malt Scotch blended together to be delicious.
well,
Color is extremely light, bright. What else can I say about that color? It's probably one of the lighter
straw.
whiskeys you're
Yeah,
gonna
it's,
see.
it's one of those ones that
very, very,
there's very little
light.
color to it. There's no, this would suggest there's very little sherry casking in this. It's just
No, I think they bring
ex bourbon and
the peat
But
hammer.
and Compass Box, non-chill filtered, natural color.
Yep.
That's a guarantee. We know that.
What's the ABV on this?
46.
46.
Out of just to be clear, and I don't know if I can answer this right here. Looking on this, I don't know who the blender was. If it was John Glazier,
John's
I think-
signatures on it.
I think
John's-
it's John.
I think John's signature's on all of them, but yeah, I'm going to say John. Although I know James Saxon's been doing a lot of work
Yes.
with him lately, and he's been killing it.
So I'm getting the sweetness I would expect
Yeah.
out of this, right on the nose. It's kind of honey, and I almost want to say lemongrass too.
Absolutely, I was going to say I don't get like a deep vanilla sweet because of the lemongrass.
Yeah.
There's a brightness to it.
I had a hit of that vanilla sweet on the initial, like the very first smell, and then it wafted off.
into what?
So then I've got like a lemongrassy, like
Dill.
Oh, that's interesting. That's a little bit of
I
stretch
got-
for me,
I got
but I'm
some
not.
dill.
I won't disagree with you. It is very light. It's very bright. It's
Yes.
But I mean, straight out of the bottle, no water, nose pleasant, not super hot in the nose.
No.
You get quite a bit of flavors.
honestly not overpeating.
No.
There's
No.
not this huge peat punch.
I kind of, I mean, it's
You
got
think
a
so?
lot of peat, but it's not so, it's approachable. How about
Well,
that?
see that, and that's the thing that I think they've got the advantage here is that they can blend their different peats together. So you get it's a peated whiskey, but you get the sweetness and you get that softness that you can put into a peated whiskey that they are able to do.
Oh,
To me, it's got a vibrant
Jesus.
characteristic.
It
It's
does.
very,
It's an
like-
unaged.
like a springy, vibranty,
Sure.
you know, it doesn't have those like heavy smells that you sometimes get with peat. And I think that brings it up a notch.
I didn't get the peat note on the nose. I kind of alluded to that, but I'll tell you what,
It's
when
there
you
to
put
palate.
it on your tongue, it's there and it is delicious. It's balanced. And one thing that I just got that I think is really interesting is in the late finish or late palate, early finish. I actually got a little bit of a lemon drop, and it was just really, really enjoyable on the palate.
I can see this.
I think the palate
Mm.
is actually exceeding the nose. The nose was bright. I really wasn't getting that.
But
that
both are
peatiness on it.
equally well done, and it's balanced on the nose. I mean, no water, straight out, first smell, first palate, done well, balanced.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so it's interesting. I'm getting like a smoked corn chip on the flavor right now because it's just
Corn chip.
you definitely get the smoke and the peat on the palate, but the underlying flavors are it's a grain. It's tough to describe. I'm really
I
struggling.
mean, I got a grainy note, but I also got
Salty.
like a lemon custardy note.
so
It's got, to me, it's got a little bit of a creaminess quality to it, and I get that
Yep.
citrusy note going on, like a tart citrus. But it's got some vanillas, and then the smoke comes in. Like, I mean, it's a very well balanced.
Do you,
Dram.
do you get vanilla? Oh, not vanilla, vinegar, a little bit. And vinegar or dill, something is going on.
Maybe like I think that might be the tartness that I'm getting. That you might be getting that
associated with
as,
vinegar.
salt and
yeah.
vinegar chips, you know.
Andrew,
and maybe that's the corn chip that Andrew's getting.
I know, Andrew.
Yeah.
You do this a lot. You've talked about it, and I've witnessed you do it. But when you're nosing a whiskey, you may nose a different nostril or open your mouth and take air in with your mouth as well. So you're trying to get as many different angles from this. I actually was getting a nose with my mouth open and taking air, and I got like a green corn husk, almost like when you're detasseling.
Yep.
maybe that's what I was getting with that corn chip.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, what is that? Where's that coming from? Because there's no grain whiskey in this, right?
Vegetable?
There's
No.
it's just a moment.
But you can get that vegetative quality
Yeah,
Right.
for sure you can. Yeah.
depending on where you make your
Yeah,
cuts.
it does definitely have that in the nose too. I think all the things we're saying are very similar in those.
Because ultimately, John doesn't need to use a peated whiskey in this blend. He has enough peated whiskey from Colila or wherever he's getting it, and then he can add something in there to add that flavor that he wants to build on. That is
right.
not necessarily a peated whiskey.
That's true.
That second taste and that sweet profile just jumped up like 10 points. I think.
See, I think that's why this won, because it has all these layers that we're trying to talk through that we can't even find good words for. Where the other ones are like, yeah, this tastes like it's from a single distillery, and you've got a single new make, and they put in some peated, they add some peated to it, and it's just not as interesting. as
I
what
think
you
that
get
it's to me, a lot of the peated whiskeys in this category are heavier, denser whiskeys and a little bit less approachable, maybe. Whereas this one is one of the few in the category that I can think of that we just talked about that has that young, sprightly, like lively appearance to it. I think it's the lemons and the creamy notes to it that kind of make the peat less heavy, and it's a little more approachable and easy to drink.
So Fernando's got a comment there that he's got it nailed down to what's in this peat monster. And he might be looking at their website. I know Compass Box is very good about being transparent. So we haven't looked that up. Blend of 8-year-old Lafroig, 10, 11, 12, and 15-year-old Colila. So
That makes
Okay.
sense.
Yep.
That makes sense.
I'll see
Probably
that.
when we're getting that tartness.
I'll be
we're
honest with
talking about.
you. I'm going to rate this just like we used, our old Scotch Rummager. So I am enjoying the palate and the finish much more than the nose on this.
I like them both, honestly.
I
I
think
agree with you.
the nose is not. I enjoy the nose, but I don't get as much from it as I do when I taste the whiskey.
There's this candy that I had when I was a kid, of course, and it was a orange tube, and it was called Bees or something. I can't remember the name of it, but it's like a nugget type flavor, and I'm getting that on the palate right now. It's kind of like that a sugary candy caramel nugget that's got a little bit of sweetness to it.
Where'd you grow up? You almost hit me, guys.
So,
Dang it. That
I
was
would
a
agree
good
with you.
joke. Line it up.
The nose on this is peated, but not particularly interesting. The palate is where all that nuance comes out and all the interest is. So, you know what? So our scoring categories, a 4 is you got to have this. There's no reason you should never. I don't care what the cost is. You got to have this in your whiskey collection. A 3 is that's a great whiskey. If it's not in your flavor profile, don't bother. But if it's a good for that category, a 2 is
Average.
average. A 1 is only if you're kind of freakish about that type of
If
whiskey.
you're in South Korea and they don't have anything else.
And then, so the nose on this, I'd give it probably a 2.5. It's okay. It doesn't like. Go ahead and use that if you want.
This is dead, but don't tell them your story.
I'm not. Go ahead and use that if you're ready. So, well, I guess that's a good point. I was trying to give a general point, but not a final point because I didn't get my.
I'm
final
not
score.
writing it down yet. I'm not done. I'm
So
just
the
getting
nose is marginal to good, but the palate I think well outplays the nose.
Chico sticks. I just remembered it. Chico sticks.
Chico sticks.
I
So
don't know
somebody
Look
go
it
onto
I know those.
Amazon and
Remember
find
those?
some
Yeah.
Chico sticks and order them. Tell me if Drew's full of it or not.
No,
I mean, I know it. Oh, great. Scotch in the Bayou's here.
Oh, she bragging.
Yeah, of course she is. Jeez. Big loser.
So I think it's safe to say we all enjoy this, friends.
I absolutely enjoy it. I think, if I'm being honest, I'm a little bit disappointed in the nose to palate. The palate is good. The finish is good. The nose showed a few chinks in the armor, if you will. I mean, I'm not saying that's in a bad note. I think I have 2 bottles of this at home. One's open, one's closed.
Have you scored it yet, Mark?
I will in just a hot second.
I wish I still had the cast strength one.
Yeah.
I can't believe we drank that whole bottle.
Well, it was a 175.
Like I said, do you remember the bottle Tom got us where it was?
That thing was so good.
See some. I knew Tom would know what a chicken stick is. But yeah, we had that huge bottle. That was awesome. But wow,
Scores are in.
So
There you
that's
go.
that.
So what do we have left? We got one more bottle to do, right?
One more bottle, which is
Aaron?
the what category?
Ex-bourbon.
bourbon.
Ex-bourbon.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Ex-bourbon cask. Let's do a little foreshadow. Late category joining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of. Well, like I said, we were figuring this out as we went along, and then we realized, hey, there's no ex-bourbon going on, so we
And
tried
there
to
needed
play
to be.
catch up. But yeah, we play catch up. So it's up next.
And it was we fought it hard and fast because it was late and was behind in the number of fights, if you will. But it really does need to be, and I can say that from a personal experience, having gone through my peated phase, my sherry phase, and now coming back to just my good old fashioned ex-bourbon finish. Right? What that's what a Scotch is. It was a fun category. And we went through a lot. So we're going to finish that one out. And then after we do the exact same story that we just did, only for ex-bourbon category, then we're going to reveal the big one. And that's the
So
Scotch.
2 weeks, right?
Bottle. Yeah, 2 weeks.
And we're not going to know until the show.
No, we're not.
We're going to have somebody else open the envelopes, total everything up,
Make sure there's not a tie.
make sure there's not a tie. And then we're going to find out when you guys find out. It'll be fun.
Scotch of the year. That's pretty.
It'll be a good time. As
I hope
far
there's whoever we have do this, their math is good, right?
Yeah, I hope so too.
So to move into the next segment, do we want to catch up on any comments? Is anybody telling us that we're completely full of
Yeah.
it? Or do
So Butch had a question. Let me put this up. It's a really fair question. Does the nose matter if the palate says wow? And I would say yes, because there are many times when I'm sitting with a whiskey glass and I just want to smell it. You know, you just keep the glass by your nose and you're just like, wow, that's great.
Yeah, I mean, to me, whiskey is a sensory experience. It's not just about the taste.
Absolutely.
And if we're judging these whiskeys based off of all of our senses, which we should, I feel like the nose should offer something. Now, and I always find more on the palate. When you're drinking it, you get more. Like the whiskey's coating your mouth, it's going up into your nasal cavity, and you're going to get things that you didn't get on the nose when you were just trying to smell it. So you're always going to get more, but I feel like the nose should be at least interesting, and it should offer you a preview of what you're getting.
I don't know how many whiskeys that I've had. I was talking with our guest earlier tonight before the show, and there's a few that honestly, they're hour and a half drams because I can't get my nose out of them. I smell them.
Yeah.
I come back. I might smell them 20 times before I even take a sip, just because I'm totally enjoying the nose perception I'm getting out of it. I honestly think it's 50% of the enjoyment to me. I love what you just said about your perception, your sensory. It's all senses.
Yeah.
Now we can argue about natural coloring and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, nose to me is if not 50%, 40%. of the
Yeah, it's
experience
right
to me.
there. Yeah, I agree.
Although I do enjoy a Scotch that I don't really get a whole lot on the nose, and you take a sip and you're like, oh, wow.
Sure.
Well,
It's
hello.
amazing. Where did
It's
you
still
come
part of
from,
that
right?
experience.
It happens all
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. What I don't like is when I smell something in the nose and the palate is like 180 degrees at odds with it.
Yeah.
If they marry together, whether they dance and play together, that's awesome. I want to see that character. But if they're beating the crap out of each other, I'm like, I don't.
How
want
many
either
times you've
one.
had a Scotch you're like, that smells pretty good, and you taste you're like, that's nothing like the nose.
Yeah.
Not even close.
Now I'm
Well,
turned off.
Sometimes you take a sip and that changes your
Sure,
perception
it
of the
does
nose
change
as
the nose,
well.
Yeah.
And for good or bad. I
Right.
mean,
Yeah.
sometimes it kills it, but I think that it's part of it.
Well, fun show, guys. That was
absolutely.
awesome.
So there we
Peat
go.
Monster, it is, right?
It's
so
been graded. Judged.
let's get a friend of the show here on. I want to pull out a couple things here.
Bum,
This
bum,
going
bum,
in case you guys are
What's going on?
thirsty.
Is that Carol? Well, liquor before beer, beer before liquor.
I don't even know at this point. But
What is this?
What, you don't know what this is?
Let's try it.
Come on, let's try it.
Hang on, wait. I'm gonna put my hat.
This is Carol.
This is Carol.
Hey, Carol.
What's
Who
Carol
are
got
you?
going on? Cranberry lime.
Somebody tell me what does that mean,
Well,
Carol?
we need someone to tell us what this is.
Is it Andrew?
Yeah.
Come on in the show, buddy.
So we
That's
got a
Andrew.
lot of this guy. This is
This is our good friend Bryce.
Hey, Bryce.
Hey, Bryce.
Bryce,
Howdy,
who are you? What is this going on?
Yeah, it's mom water.
Mom water.
Mom water.
I know it's not exactly Scotch, but
It
that's
is
how I
not.
found you guys
that's how you found us.
because I am a Scotch fan.
Hell
you
yeah,
guys
you
are the
are.
reason that I'm in Scotch. No, we're we kind of popped up. I guess I don't know off the radar last year, and we're Indiana based. We live in Southern Indiana, and it's just kind of a fun. I don't know. It's a fun mix. Like we kind of came into the category just because my wife Jill, she had this idea to, she didn't like carbonation. That was her whole thing. She was like, I can't drink a lot of it.
So
She likes to drink a lot.
the White Claw
Sorry,
industry or the gin and tonics, the White Claws, those kind of things just didn't turn her on, and she wanted something else.
Yeah, I mean, it was basically like she liked to a degree, she liked the flavor, but you're in the hot sun all day and it's sitting around a pool and it burns, you're bloated and you got a headache. And so she started, it was actually started at a resort years ago. She started mixing this passion fruit water with vodka. She was like, I like this water and I just want to keep drinking the water.
Wow.
And so she started drinking the water. It was like, that fancy bougie spa water you
Right.
always see. And so she started mixing that with vodka, and that's kind of how the idea was born. And then she was kind of the reason. She kind of kept persisting, like, we should try this. And I'm like, I don't know the first thing. I drink bourbon, I drink Scotch, I like all the but I don't know the first thing about the liquor industry. So we kind of eventually she
You do now.
persuaded me. We know
He
a
does
decent
now.
amount now. So
So we've got zero carbonation.
Yep.
Mom water, neutral grain spirits with natural flavors, 4.5% alcohol.
Yeah, I mean, it's the cleanest thing in a can. So
It really
in the
is.
alcohol world, because all of our calories come from the actual liquor. So if you, chemistry says if you're at 4.5%, you're in a, 12 ounce can or whatever, you're at 86.1 calories.
Okay.
Our citric acid adds 1 calorie to it. So, I mean, if you're looking at what everyone puts in a can these days, it is
A lot.
a lot more than that. You usually got a couple
Yeah.
of sugars in there. You've got some kind of, some sort of artificial preservative, yada, yada. So we keep in mind, when we were creating this,
So
we
zero-
weren't doing it as a business. We were doing it because it's what
Your
Jill
wife
wanted
wanted
to
to
drink.
Your wife wanted to drink it.
I feel like this whole story is a story about you listening to your wife.
Your wife said, I don't want this.
Kind of was.
Okay.
That's why it's mom
There's
water,
your tip
not
of the
Bryce's
day.
water.
That's right.
There's your tip of the day. Yeah.
That seems like a
Happy
good tip.
wife.
Happy
life.
life.
Yep.
Success story right here for Brett.
She may or may not be up yet, trying to stay up to watch the show. We're not sure. You may,
Awesome.
But yeah, so that's the it's kind of the hydration in between drinking your scotch.
I'll tell you what,
you
this
know.
this is a new one for me. I've not had this yet. This is
There's
like
no bloating.
perfectly. This is like my favorite combination. I love this.
Yeah,
So
this
this
is
is the Carol. This is the Christmas blend or
Carol.
whatever, right?
Yeah, this is a seasonal. So we decided, again, we we have a little fun with the marketing. Nobody on our team is from the industry, so we kind of come in and with a different perspective. So we kind of came in and said, hey, we're doing this for moms. Like that's the whole point. The reason that this called Mom Water is because my wife was, she was taking these little guys right here and writing mom on them, putting them in the cooler around the house, and with this
What's
concoction.
your mom? It's
Oh,
mom
with
water.
a little vodka and
That's
flavoring in
what
it?
she did.
I feel like there's an SNL skit here.
Yeah, and we have 3
No,
kids.
you can't drink that. It's mom's water.
Exactly right.
No.
So we had 3 kids, and I think our middle one grabbed a couple of the wrong. We drink a lot of water as a family, so he grabbed the wrong water and kind of spit it out like this doesn't taste right. And so I kind of looked at her like, you need to probably put something on there. So she started writing mom on all of her water bottles, and that's kind of like the
And here we
name
are.
stuck, and that's kind of how it went. So yeah, when we went, we were like, this needs to be we were trying to do it as more of a celebration of moms. That was the whole thing with us. And so my idea was like, why don't we do personalities instead of flavors? It's not about the flavor, it's about the personality.
So each flavor has a different name.
That's right.
So this is cranberry lime, which is Carol.
Yes.
What other?
So we've got a Linda, Linda, and everybody asks us about the names. So
Yeah, of
honestly,
course.
like you got to go back to when we were doing this, which was, I wasn't putting a lot of thought into it. It was just kind of like whatever popped in my head. So
This seems
we were-
like a Linda.
We know how
Yeah.
it works.
we actually were watching, if you're on YouTube a lot, the Listen Linda video, right? Where this little kid is pleading with his mom and keeps
Yeah.
saying, listen, Linda.
Linda.
Look at that. That's sexy. So we,
Wow,
we have a
that's
Linda, she's peach blueberry, and that came from that video. We have a Sandy's coconut mango, and it was just like, that's kind of a beachy flavor. And Sandy
made
kind of goes with the
forward,
beach.
so.
We do have a Karen, and everyone asks us about the Karen. We're like, technically speaking, we picked that before the meme happened.
Really? That's cool.
The meme happened, and then we're like, oh crap, is this a good or a bad thing? And so we
Probably good.
Yeah, we
It
decided
worked out okay.
we didn't have any money left.
I was going to
Full
say, you done
transparency.
spent the money.
We were done, so we're like, well, we're going with it. So it worked.
All
so there.
publicity is
Here's your
good
nice letters
publicity.
from my brother.
So are you selling any of this stuff, or is it just?
We are selling quite a bit of it.
Just
Evidently,
leave it.
there's a lot of people that have my wife's taste buds.
So
Yeah.
I saw a comment on here that it was for freshman college girls, and we were talking before we even started that is not
This is an
necessarily
interesting
who's
take.
buying
This, So when we assumed it would just be a lot of moms.
That was
and
the
the whole point. It was, Jill and all of her friends were drinking it. So what we've noticed is the college campuses, it's blown up. I mean, we've had a lot of social media personalities that have picked up on it, and like around a lot of the colleges. So like the funny story is, Miami of Ohio, we did really well in Ohio this year, and we had some people talking to us like, hey, our distributor there called us like, man, students were back this week. We sold like 500 cases on campus. We're like, what? Like, what is that all about? Well, then we had another person that had somebody that went to campus and sent us a picture, and it was a big picture of welcome back students presented by Mom Water. It's like, okay, well, that makes sense. But it is kind of interesting because of all the colleges, like the young generation doesn't care what they're drinking. They want something that tastes good. They want something they can probably drink a lot of, and it's not going to bloat them up. And like, they really could care
This
less
is that.
if
So-
it's called Mom Water.
They
So,
don't want to go through the pains of acquiring a taste for beer or liquor.
Yeah, that's
What did
true.
you start on?
It took me a while to get in
Yeah.
there, but
Oh, I
finally
tried beer for
came
years.
on
was
to
it like
beer and-
Zima with a Jolly
Right,
Rancher
but,
in it?
Oh no, I didn't see him.
I was,
Throw
uh,
that one in.
What's that grape
I mean,
flavoring?
Purple passion.
Purple passion.
That's what it
I,
was.
I was a malt
So
liquor
see,
guy.
we're-
I didn't
Colt
know
45.
Gold
Did you-
45.
Did you
and
carry it out in a
DOE.
brown bag?
So it was funny because last weekend my wife and son, my son's a producer, so I'm sorry, but
We love
he went
producers,
to the Oak and Bucket game. It was at IU in Indiana University. So he's Purdue, their IU University, and then my wife looks up on the screen and it's the mom cam presented by Mom Water. I'm like,
Oh,
what?
really?
Yeah, so they were taking pictures of moms in the crowd and they're putting it up
Yeah.
on the screen. Mom Water was sponsoring it. And
That's-
then when I told my wife that Mom Water's, coming here, and I think, I remember them on the screen at IU.
It's working.
It
Yeah,
is.
it's-
It is.
It started from your wife's taste.
It did.
It's
Which
that's it.
I always made fun of her for, because
Oh,
like if
yeah.
I'm
Oh.
making a steak or anything, it's like, here's mine, and maybe I marinate, or at least at the bare minimum, it's some salt and pepper. And Jill's like, I don't want anything on it. Like, she doesn't want salt, she doesn't want pepper. Like, her taste buds are different. They're more bland. And when we're talking to people about mom water, but like the whole point of mom water is it's supposed to drink like fruit infused water, which is very light flavor. It's not, we're not big bold flavor, but the benefit of that is like you can drink them,
drink a lot,
and they don't get old.
And
There's no alcohol in it.
And 4.5%.
Oh yeah,
4.5%.
You gotta be
that's
careful.
No joke. And it's not a malt beverage. It's not like that. I mean,
I'm gonna tell you right now, it's easy to drink.
Yeah.
Right. You knock them back.
We've actually tried to coin that term in the industry. We've talked to a lot of people. We've expanded throughout a lot of states, and we're trying to say we're not a ready to drink. Let's go with easy to drink, because it's not really a category.
Royalties.
But
I'm
there you
just
go.
saying.
Same wavelength.
So where are you now? What states are you in?
Yeah, we're in a bunch. We started, at the beginning of this year, we were in Indiana, Kentucky, and technically Toledo, Ohio, because that's where we were produced. And so we kind of let them have it. And I believe now we'll be in California here at the end of next week. And that'll make 26 states.
Congratulations.
26
Wow.
states in 1 year?
In 1 year.
You
So
guys
it's
have exploded.
bonkers. We went from this was my part-time job.
Part-time job last year. In
Last year.
2021.
Yep.
Part-time job.
And
Yep.
so you had a career.
I did have a career. Yeah. Yeah.
It went out the window.
I was in sales and marketing and for like a hospice. I mean, my wife and I were both in healthcare when
Which is
pandemic
doing
hit.
good.
Which is not a bad
Healthcare's
profession to
not
be
bad.
in
Good.
right now.
Yep. And
Yeah.
then for some reason,
Now
right
you're
before
slinging
COVID
electric.
hit, we decided to do this. Our families thought we were nuts.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we went into this and it was just me trying to figure stuff out. And this year we just hired our 19th employee.
Hell yeah, man.
Good for you.
That's what I'm talking about.
We're trying to make a
Was it
move.
you?
America,
I see it.
America.
But
I
I'll
see
be
a few of
number
our
20.
employees on the,
I'll
Oh,
do
yeah?
it.
Who's on here? Let's pull him out.
Let's say Josh Morrison. Well, that's my brother.
All right. Look at this guy.
That guy.
I know
Jason,
you,
Elka.
brother.
That's the other guy.
Pull out Jason.
He's
Hey, Jason.
Heads up for sales. Yeah. Look at him tuning in. We're getting you guys a bunch of followers.
I mean,
That's
Arizona. Peter Newton from Arizona.
At the end of the
Arizona, we're there,
I-
man.
you throw this thing in a Yeti cooler with a bunch of ice, get out on a boat. You're nailing these
This
back
is dangerous.
That's
like
the-
you don't even
that's-
know.
So those are the words that usually come
At
out of everyone's
4.5%.
Look at this.
That's better.
Hey,
than
I'm
yours.
yeah,
serious.
you're missing it.
Yeah,
buddy.
you haven't missed anything at all. It's
No,
not like I haven't
Well,
tried
good
anything
We're,
from the
we're
bar.
sending you
Josh
some
doesn't like
samples. You're
whiskey.
good.
So are you normally? Did you get into the mom water, or what do you normally drink?
Yeah, so I started 10 years ago. I drank. Well, I drank like beer,
You can
like
say
everyone
it.
else. I
You
was
can
like
say it.
IPAs, things like that. And then we started a bourbon club in our hometown. And so then I started drinking. I hated it in the beginning, and then got a palate for it.
I
Drank a
still
lot of
hate
straight
it,
bourbon,
but-
right? Until you guys came along.
Get you
And
the
so,
scotch.
yeah, so we, obviously for me, I love scotch. I've kind of delved into tequila a little bit, like some of the nicer stuff. It's interesting.
For sure.
He opened our eyes to that.
Yeah,
It is.
really.
There's a lot of really good
It's
tequilas.
simple.
There's a reason next year it's going to be probably the number one spirit there is.
I drink a lot
Oh,
of that
wow.
for work.
Yep.
Like I try a lot of stuff for work.
Yep.
It's interesting.
It is, and there, if you can get past, when you used to do Cuervo shots.
I
and
think that's
with
the
lime,
problem.
That's the problem.
People need
It's
to
like
get over that and find
a
out.
lot of
what's on
people
the
got
other side.
sick on that, but like if you get into it and you get into nice stuff, they're really elegant. They're really good. But honestly, like as I've grown older, I can't drink beer anymore.
Yeah,
Which
I'm
pains
with you.
me.
I am with
Pains
you.
me because I love
One
beer.
or two tops.
Floats you, yeah.
I drink mom water. I'm either drinking mom water or I'm drinking something neat.
Yeah.
Whiskey, yeah.
So if
whiskey.
I go to a bar and they don't have mom water, like I'll order these days. Sometimes I'll order a tequila. I'll sip it and I'll take a water. I'll order a scotch. I'll order a bourbon, like things like that.
Are you able to
Right.
find good tequilas at bars now?
It's getting better.
Okay.
But
I know
with
one you can find
tequila,
one at.
there you go. See? It's getting better, but a lot of what I'm learning about tequila is like there's a lot that are they add a lot of stuff to it to make it taste better. And some of the really good
Oh,
ones are harder to
interesting.
find.
Well,
Yeah.
it's like anything else, whether it's scotch, rum, which we know there's a lot of great tasting rum,
Yep.
tequila. I mean, it's all about the investment in the journey, right? I mean,
Yep.
so if you want to get into tequila, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you need to do that.
There is a ton of good stuff out there, and it just depends on your personal journey where you're at. Like,
Yep.
it's
We have some
everybody's
stuff on the other table.
journey, individual.
Absolutely.
Well, I think it's interesting about tequila, though. I mean, honestly, I would have never. Tequila was not on my radar at all. And Sean brought some pretty good tequila home to the bar.
my
Back to the
gosh.
bar one
You
night,
wouldn't know
and I
it.
was like, okay, wait a minute. Whoa, what's this? And then I was taking trips to Mexico at that time in my life, and I started getting and yeah,
There's some excellent.
Yep.
tequilas.
excellent tequilas, but they're not your lime kickback salt
Put the
type.
worm in.
No,
I'm not
no,
doing
it's
all
not
that.
spring break tequila.
No,
Exactly.
there's like
They're good.
it's a,
Sipping neat tequilas.
They are.
that are really really good, and I'm sure rums are the same way.
Yep.
But
I saw a mezcal on there. Like I
Yep.
got into those because those are more the smoky tequilas. And then
Yeah.
it was like, so I bought a bottle of a Pachuga tequila, which is like, so they take the tequila and when they're distilling it, it'll be like 3 times distilled. And the third time they take it and they'll put a bunch of like nuts and fruit and everything else in with like the mash.
distill.
And then they take a raw protein and hang it in there. So like the
What?
one that I do is chicken. You can get iguana, chicken.
What
And so
the hell?
whenever they cook it, it goes up through that. And I'm telling you, like,
It
is
tastes
you
like
guys,
chicken.
it's
That
it's
sounds
like
weird.
a meal. If you go with Isla Scotch, to me, that's a Pachuga with tequila. It's really interesting and unique.
That
Telling you,
sounds
you're gonna have to do it.
distilled.
Pachuga.
That sounds like a journey.
Distilled
we
and
filmed.
cooks the iguana.
It's-
Why?
yes.
Someone's telling me I'd rather
Yes.
drink
Go
a
outside
bourbon.
and catch an iguana.
So it's just going right up. The vapors are going right up through. It's
Salmonella.
interesting.
You know you want to try one. I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's all.
I'm
None of the
in.
protein
I'm
comes
in.
through,
Don't
right?
get me
So-
wrong, Sean, but
Telling you, it's a trip.
where did you find this?
I don't know. I go down
Something
rabbit
tells
holes a
me
lot.
you've been haggled.
I think he was on
I go down rabbit holes a lot.
You're on acid now.
That's
That's an
interesting.
ayahuasca trip.
Yeah. In Costa Rica.
All right, so let's back up again. So Scotch, so you talked about bourbon and everything else, but Scotch is like one of your favorites.
It was. I mean, and the whole
I mean, you brought some pretty nice Scotch.
You
So
did
yeah.
bring some scotch.
I jumped in really hard with. So, I was in bourbon for years and I had a nice collection and loved it. And then, started getting tired of the like trying to find the bourbons I wanted because everyone else was buying them and flipping them and selling them. And I was like, I was
Right.
drinking them. And so
Can you replay that section?
exactly.
30
I know.
times.
corn.
Tires.
Exactly.
Corn.
Corn. So, we delved into Rise and all these other things. And then we had a couple guys in our group that were Scotch guys and they would always try to get me into it. And then finally I was like, I'll try some. And I think like everyone else, you assume that Scotch is just this smoke, peaty thing. And,
Right.
and I think they had one of the Scotch might have been Glendronach or something. It was something that was very sherry. It was like a sherry bomb. I was like, well, that's not what I thought it was.
That's not peated. Yeah.
And as it went, so I started, and you guys' channel was the whole, I've been following for a few years, I think, at this point, and that's kind of what guided me. So like the first bottle that I really splurged for was King Alexander,
Oh yeah.
the Dalmore. And I was like, you guys were like, it was the only one that like 444.
It
You
took
guys
us a couple
re-reviewed
years.
it. It was
Yeah,
444. And I was like, I can't go wrong. I got it. If I'm going to splurge, I'm going to do that. And you nailed it. Like it was awesome. And that really like,
whiskey.
and then it went like you guys were talking about Talisker. That was the whole thing. So when I started, I no smoke. I didn't want any smoke. I didn't want any
Of
peat.
course. That's fine.
Talisker 10 is the one that it was like my gateway. To
Really?
That's
my
what
gateway.
There's
turned
always
you out.
one, right?
Because what you guys said was exactly what happened to me when I took my first sip of Talisker 10. It was like this beautiful, like sweet, almost like tropical notes. And then my whole mouth filled up with smoke. And then it went away. And like the finish was like sweet. I was like, well, that was interesting. Like, there was nothing, there was nothing on my palate. Nothing was
I'll take
like,
another hit of that.
yeah, like nothing was
This-
left on my palate. So
This is like my favorite thing when you hear other people's passion come
Describe it
through
too,
and
though.
you describe it, you're like, we're not alone.
you guys said that a while ago. I was like, that's exactly what happened to me. And like, so that Talisker, like the more I drank it, I'm like, wow. Then the smoke, like the more your palate adjusts to it, you get used to it. So I'm like, well, I gotta try an Ardbeg 10. I've heard those are pretty brutal.
That's a big step.
Yeah,
bro.
those are pretty.
I mean, that's not a big step. That's a jump.
That's a jump. And I remember getting it. I'm like, but I'm going in with the fact like I'm gonna like it.
That's
And
awesome.
it's funny because now I love it. Like that's I love. I mean, I love all Scotch, but like if I tend to side with the peaty and
So we
That's
talk
fair.
about this all the time.
No
So
carbonation on it.
one of
That's
the
what's
things we
awesome about
ask
it.
each other all the time in friends, like deserted island, you get one bottle to take with you.
Man.
What's it going to be?
Wow, that's a tough one.
It is.
It can be a big
It can
bottle.
be expensive.
It can be rum to
cheap.
I mean,
rum.
We've got, there's a few of us in this. It's hard to go wrong. Man, I don't know. It's hard to go wrong with anything from Lagavulin. Like I'd probably side with that, like Lagavulin 16.
Oh, wheelhouse is.
That's my wheelhouse.
Yeah, because it's I mean, it's just super good.
It's
like
perfect.
anything.
Yeah.
I mean, Talisker would be there for me just because I know
Yeah.
what it means. Like, and I've got a Talisker 18, where it's like it's a little less smoky. I told somebody, I was like, if you're trying to get into smoke, I'd actually start you like Talisker 18.
Higher,
'cause there's,
right.
Yeah.
there's less, right?
Less.
Yeah,
It,
absolutely.
it wafts off as
It
an
wafts
It's
off.
almost like
agent.
a Highland Park because there's a little
Yes.
bit of smoke in it. You just got to get their feet in the water.
Just a bit.
I can remember back in the day when we tried Highland Park and we're like, oh, well, that's a lot.
That's too smoky.
And I
for
still
us.
get people like
That
that.
had to
That's
be
like,
a
oh,
long
that's
time
smoking.
ago.
I'm like, really? That doesn't
Man, I
taste good to
barely get
me.
shit on that, right?
I have nothing now. It's like,
So the funny part, so when Josh, my brother, I was trying to get him, he tends to go more for Highland Park and the sherry stuff.
Yeah.
And I was trying to get him on smoke, and I was like, just give me like one night, and we'll start. So like,
you walked him in.
Oh,
yes.
really?
And by the end of the night, he was drinking our big, like, man, I don't get any smoke. That's like tropical, and it was hilarious because it's like
And
you're
you're like,
how
we know about
adjusted.
that, don't we?
If you
It totally does.
if you give it the time of day and say I'm in for an evening of trying these, and like
Right.
it seems like that it does.
If you can stay up till 3 or 4 in the morning and just
Yeah.
do it up.
No, I mean,
Who would do
honestly, I think we've all been there. I think the problem, I don't want to say problem, but what happens, the mistake is a lot of people are forced that upon their first scotch and they think
Yeah.
that's scotch and they're like,
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
never
and
touching
it's,
scotch
and
again.
it's a cheaper scotch,
so-
right?
Right. It's like cheap
so
crap
good.
and it's overpeated or cheap smoke. And you're like, you know what? That's not what scotch is. That there is a
And you weren't
profile
ready
in
for that anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
The way you walk them in is perfect. We've talked about so many gateway peated scotches,
Yeah.
right? Just I'm
That's
not
what
trying to
I'm
kill
saying.
somebody. I'm not trying
It
to
is.
punch them in the nose.
No,
But let me walk you into this, and all of a sudden you appreciate it.
I
as
feel
much.
like the flavor variety is when you get people into
Yep.
scotch, right? Like, because bourbon is good.
Yep.
And there's a lot of bourbons that
Yep.
I drink.
Yep.
But there's I don't want to say a unidimensional aspect to it, but there's
No,
a
you're right.
sameness
That
to it,
flavor
right?
profile.
You're right there.
Because it's
100%.
a narrow flavor profile because you've got specific things that you have to do.
right.
And scotch doesn't have some of those boundaries.
Yeah, we talked about
I was
this
gonna say.
at dinner. It was like I had always said, like, after getting into both, I'm like, I feel like if you're a beer drinker, bourbon is more like stouts. You have a very similar profile that you're going to get most of the time. It's like deep caramels and chocolates and all those things. Whereas
Yep.
like Scotch is more like IPAs. Like there's lots of different
This
IPAs.
is an interesting
like
concept.
you've
I
got
like
like fruits and junipers, and it's bright, and there's lots of flavor like
Yeah.
popping out at you. Whereas like you've got the the heaviness of a stout. So like bourbon to me is more the heavy side, and Scotch is not. It's bright and it's got a lot of stuff going on for it. So I don't know. That's
It's an interesting take on it. I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
It really does.
and I was an IPA guy, so
Mhm.
like makes sense that I would like Scotch.
I mean, you still enjoy your bourbons.
I do. Yeah, I
still
still
enjoy
got quite a
right.
few. Yeah, we've still got our bourbon group, and
Which one?
One from
So we
Stuff
did.
for Work.
The long one.
Yeah. I had a buddy who said he didn't like whiskey, but wanted us to throw him in the deep
oh
end.
god,
So gave him an Octomore 8.2.
Dirty Petey Sherry.
Yeah,
Then
that-
the grin
said
set
it.
in.
That's what you call that's the answer to what does the 5 fingers say to the face?
Yeah.
Wow.
Slap.
Some people respond to it and say, "Thank you, may I have another?"
I'll tell you what, I'm always impressed when somebody's like, I didn't know if I wanted to get in that sherry or the peated, but I tried that Lafroig, and you're like, whoa, like,
Good for you.
and they're like, oh, it was delicious, and I loved everything about it.
Speaking
I'm like,
of-
oh,
trying
well,
the
all right.
Octomore.
Oh, now I just
12.1.
pour this.
What?
It's
So
much
delicious.
So I do want to put a can.
I already had that.
Oh yeah,
Quarter
cask.
I don't know if this will
So-
probably not show up.
And if you were looking
pull
at
back,
the
Andrew, it's not gonna work.
SMWS
This way.
challenge
It's right here.
earlier,
Right here,
Andrew and
guys.
I were over on the side drinking a bunch of really good stuff with Bryce.
You're
so-
horrible.
Andrew.
Come this way.
It's not going to work. It's
There
you
right
go.
here. Manual focus.
You want this?
Can you do the camera?
It's
It's going to
gonna-
focus where
I gotta
what?
turn it because the light. And so, Carol,
Oh my
mom
God,
water,
Mom water,
cranberry wine.
hit it.
It's their first
Find
time.
it.
I've
26
never done this
days.
before.
Do
First
this.
time.
Be gentle.
I must see if it's on or not. I'm not sure. Yeah, it is. Here you
Turn
go.
it on.
There you go. Here, give me this.
That'll autofocus.
I will say it is
Look at
surprisingly
that. Look at that.
surprisingly easy drinking.
Yeah, I'm sitting here sipping it. I'm like,
And I do like
You
that
forget
it's
it's
not
alcohol.
it
carbonated.
is. It
If
totally does
you
this
are
alcohol.
in a hot climate, you spend time on a boat. If you're not killing a bunch of this
I mean,
stuff, you're
dude,
missing the
This
boat.
is.
It's gotta be
It's so
dangerous.
good. It's
'Cause
so
it
good.
doesn't
I
taste
mean,
like alcohol.
if this is iced down, I'm killing it. And I'm
You can. You
Here's
can.
a pro tip: you can freeze it. You can make ice cubes out of it because it's low enough ABV where it will
What
freeze.
Right.
So then you can put your mom water ice cubes in. Well,
Your mom
anything.
water. In your
And
mom
you can
water.
put it in your mom water.
And your scotch.
Then it's cold all day.
So I just poured
Or it's scotch.
this guy.
Yeah.
I haven't had
What-
that
so
yet.
you
I'm
brought
not-
this.
I'm
Tell
not
me
doing
about this.
Yeah, this was so this was Octomore 12 too. So it was last year's. It was the first time. So when I got into it, I was like, I'm going to splurge on a bottle because I keep hearing all this of Octomore.
Show it to the camera.
Yeah, there you go. There, wait.
Oh, look at that beauty. Look at that beauty.
So dark.
Yep.
That's
It's like
gorgeous.
black
Well,
in the
too.
bottle.
This is like bourbon and sherry cask finish, which 57.3% ABV, 129.7 ppm, and so I had never had an Octomore, and so I started I loving the smoke, thinking that when I try this, it's just gonna punch you in the face, and I'm like, it really
Oh,
didn't like I thought it
That's
would.
what I expected in my first one.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be something almost like undrinkable that you'd really have to it was almost like,
Right.
I don't know, for fun or a trophy, but
Right.
I tried it. It's fantastic.
Pleasantly surprised. 'cause
I was
I'm-
pleasantly
you're like
surprised.
trophy, like this is the ghost pepper. I'm gonna eat this
Correct.
and I'm gonna
I'm
hate
going to try it
yeah.
once and go, well, I'm going to set it back on the
That
shelf.
was exactly what I thought about
But-
it when we first got a bottle.
Yeah.
It's
Well, and
not that.
some
at
of
all.
those. So we started with some of the 8-point whatevers.
I think we had a 5.
I want to
It
say
was-
it was
6 or
early
7. It
on,
was something. It was a
guys.
while ago, guys.
this is 12.2. Is this the latest one?
No, the 13s just came out.
But
So
the,
we were young.
so those early ones, they were like, I'm going to be as peated as possible, and that's all I've got. And so those early Octomores were like, yeah, boring because it just was peat and it was young and it was just like this acrid peat and no character to it. And so this one, the 12.2,
so
totally different.
this one you're in love with.
It's
It's really
It's
good.
a beautiful whiskey.
Andrew, you're
It is
not
very
going to be
good.
disappointed with that. That is a great bottle.
Andrew has
Agree with
had-
that.
No name
Andrew.
number 3.
Yeah.
Have
Yeah.
that
Don't
one
we have that
too.
over here?
I
Not
have the
gonna
first
be-
one.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
And
that
and,
one's
and I just twisted the
ridiculously
cork
good.
and the cork broke. So, we'd have to uncork it. I have no name
That's
one right there.
No name one?
We
Yeah,
just have
that
to-
was a delicious bottle.
Gotta get a cork.
friggin'
You
I
gotta
would like
decork
to
it,
at
get it
least
out of
put
there.
that on my
Got
lips
one?
one more
We got
time.
any
We
corkscrews
got-
in
I
there?
know,
get you.
can't believe it.
We'll get you.
So
I'm not surprised.
just so you guys know, this Octomore, he also brought Port Charlotte, which was a very unique Port Charlotte.
Sherry finish, right?
It's a sherry finished Port
Yeah, the
Charlotte, and I tried that one
OLC
earlier
one.
off camera before we started.
Pull up on the big
I
screen.
didn't
It's
try
really
that yet.
good.
It's a wonderful bottle. It definitely started with a peanut note. It
You're a pro.
It
There
was
you
a
go.
peanut perfumey note. And then Andrew comes up and hands me his glass of this Octomore and says, well, just do a side-by-side comparison. And night and
Wow.
day, this guy,
Yeah.
This is like high quality.
the Octomore definitely puts its foot on the Port Charlotte's head. It really is. And I'm saying the Port Charlotte's great. It was good. This one, when you smell it, you're like, holy shit, it's a different category.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
that
really
first Charlotte has more funk and
Yeah.
funk to it.
It's got a lot of funk.
Did you
Yep.
pour that shirt? I mean,
It's
That's
a
the shot.
deeper,
Yeah.
richer.
The nose isn't as good as
glass.
the palate.
It is.
And here's my take on it. We haven't had an Octomore since
You gotta taste it.
5.1, whatever. Yeah, so
8.1,
Sean's,
Ooh, that's really
he's got
nice.
It is
distillery
really good. I
context
like
or
it a lot.
distributor.
I got stuff on my bar.
Anyway, it's been years since I've really
It's got
gotten into an
bourbon
Octomore, is
and
my
SC,
point.
which I'm assuming is sherry.
My last remembrance of Octomore was that I was
That's
just going to be
very
punched
good.
in the face
Yeah,
with
well,
Pete. That's what it's all about. I'll tell you what,
Love
this
that
is a very well put together dram.
So is that
Yeah.
Port Charlotte?
I think it is.
Yeah,
It
there you
is.
go.
Delicious.
Zach
I'm
knows.
just saying,
The OLCO1. I
Which
agree,
one?
Zach.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
like funkiness and goodness. Yeah.
Yep,
Come
no
It is. It's
doubt.
got-
It's,
that's
a really
assuming
good glass.
Zach Andrews knows what he's
Zach
talking
knows
about.
his shit though.
He does.
Zach knows.
Zach knows Diageo more than
I'm
any of us.
You guys start
Zach.
joining our
I'm
Patreon after
bullshit.
shows. This
I
guy
know,
knows
I
his
do.
stuff, man. He's awesome.
Yes.
I'm going bad.
Love the hell out of it.
My
Oh
life
man,
these
you guys
days.
are making me want to open one of my
Yeah.
alcohols.
Damn right.
That's what they're for.
Yeah, you
Why are you holding out?
Yeah,
that's-
Go ahead and open it.
That's
Join
what they're
us.
for.
Join us.
Once
Come on.
once you start opening bottles, it's
You have
it's
to
easy
open
after
them.
that.
I mean, and I've got bottles on my bar for sure that I'm like,
Okay.
I kind of want to save this for a special occasion.
That's good.
But sometimes special
Did you have
occasion
this?
is it's Thursday.
Yes, I did.
Yeah,
Oh.
I had them both. I had them both.
They're
but-
delicious.
they're both great.
I'm trying to figure out what my next dram is because I've had both those.
I
I've
don't
had-
know,
Can we
but
go back to
they're
the
black
Napoli at this
art.
point?
I don't know. That thing's
I don't know if
delicious, but
anybody knows-
my palate's ruined for that.
Yeah,
now.
that's the case.
Too much peated.
Bryce brought an old Poltney 35 as well.
You got a bottle you gotta
Lee,
finish
and
over there.
He shared it with us
No, no, no.
because in
Over
his
there.
eyes
No, I
we were
can't
winners
reach out for
and
this. No,
you
don't do
weren't.
that.
But
That is true.
the old Poltney 35 is good.
That was delicious.
You should at least bring it over.
Let's-
so we
let's
can
at least
see
true.
it.
You should see
Yeah,
it.
you gotta see the
delicious.
bo-
This is
box.
gotta be this is a close up because this is one of the most epic
This was
boxes
the
I've seen in a while.
so yeah.
I want the
Sean's
box.
opening one.
Okay,
can
that's
have
me.
one,
Sean.
We should get him on the show just to open it.
Hell
Sean,
yeah.
Flip
Wait,
that.
I gotta do it
Hold
like
on,
this.
Sean. We're gonna get you on the show. Don't open it yet.
We're gonna top there. Here's the camera.
All right.
Raise it up.
Look at this.
Let me-
This is
let me-
the Napoli 35,
Well, let's
baby.
go with this first.
Right here's the camera. Yep.
Look at
forward.
it. It's like a wheelhouse.
Wheelhouse!
Yeah, it really was very
You want to
delicious.
like
hide
the
your
wheel,
stash
yeah.
in there.
It's kind of crazy. Yeah, it did. Josh.
Oh my
made the
gosh.
trip. It is so like this was a funny story on this one because this was when I was getting into Scotch and I had a good bourbon collection. I'm like, you know what? I had like a Pappy Lot B, which if you're in bourbon, I think is the weakest of all of them.
Yep.
And its value is worth more than the taste. And so I traded a guy for this, and I'm like, well, if I'm going to get in Scotch, I want a good Scotch, and I had no idea what I was getting.
So
And
you got
turned out good. I was like,
I
well, at
think
least
you
the
got the
box
better
is
end
going
of
to
that
look
deal.
fantastic. You
You
know,
got an old Poltny
Box is epic.
35
yeah, it is.
for a Pappy Lot B.
Lot
I
B.
feel like this
I
is some
feel
kind
like
of
it was a very
movie
good
like
trade.
perfect sign. Like you put it together and opens up two.
Scotch on the Bayou wants to know if that's a 1983.
What does that mean? I don't know. Could be. This is where I need readers.
Do you want it to
Right.
be, Leanne? Because if it is, yes.
We'll send you the rest. How's that?
I'm still sour.
It's I don't know
I
if I
don't
can even
know.
find it.
But wait, scroll up. Someone's going to open an Optima. We
Oh,
gotta
yeah,
get
with
him on the
Sean.
show.
Where's Sean?
Oh yeah.
Sean,
Do it.
we need an email address.
Sean, send me your email address right now. I'm gonna get you on the
Right,
show.
like
There it
right
is.
now. Email
We'd love to
address,
watch you open a
Scotch
bottle.
for Dummies at
I don't even know how to
gmail.com.
pronounce that
You're
is.
coming on. You're opening
That
this
lock code
thing
doesn't
for
make any
everybody to
sense
see.
me.
Is there any, is there, yeah, I don't know.
It's like a
It
weird
was
lock code.
delicious, though.
So I'm not
Leanne,
sure.
You're not going to like this
And-
whole Polling
yeah.
So,
35.
Andrew,
sure.
It's
I would like to hear your take on that bottle.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
I was
Yeah.
really intrigued by it.
So,
honestly.
so this is
I think he's right.
This is an old ex-bourbon barrel, and then it's finished in a sherry cask. And so you could taste the layers in this whiskey. There's a bright sweetness to it that comes through with that sherry cask finish. But underlying, there's
Your
like
phone
a,
works.
there's a deeper, drier, almost subtle,
Sean.
almost tired layer underneath that I think is probably the original 35-year-old whiskey that has been in that ex-bourbon for 35 years. And then they finish it in a sherry. And the reason they put it in that sherry is to brighten it up, to bring that sweetness up, to add the interest to it.
But I
You are
don't
late
think
to
it
the show,
was
Tim.
like not part of the whiskey. You know what I mean? Like there's some whiskeys that you're like, oh, well, they finished it in that to like make it not suck. And this wasn't that.
Do
Like,
you
I
feel
felt like
that-
it was
that-
like a seasoning category. Like I agree with you on it.
Yeah, I don't think the base whiskey would suck. I think it just would be less interesting than they wanted to be to charge whatever
yes.
they charge for the bottle.
I feel like
agree
they
with that.
added a layer of flavor and interest to the whiskey by putting it in the sherry.
Yeah, because like you were saying,
Go
when
down.
you
There's a
drain your
glass below.
glass, and
Down,
you,
down.
and you,
There's glasses.
you
Grab a
just
glass.
smell the glass, you smell
I
that
just wanna pour
musky
a-
old
He's full of shit.
just layers that in there that represent a very old whiskey and a very mature whiskey. But
Yes, that's set for a very
but it
long
has
time.
no
Yep.
brightness, no spark.
No,
that
you're full of
people
shit.
would-
When you, I will say, when you drink it, you know it's old.
You
Like
do.
that was the thing. Like you know
Absolutely.
it's old. You can tell. Like if there's age in a dram,
Yeah, you know it's old.
you
Yeah,
know it's
absolutely.
old. Some,
I mean,
some things
that's
drink.
a big whiskey.
Uh,
It really is. And I've been drinking Pete for an hour, and
Boom.
smell that.
Come on, man.
All right. So far away, you're getting a little bit of light floral. As you get in, you get some of that muskiness going around the outside of your nose.
Trooper, I see that old Pulteney 21. That's a baller.
That's a baller bottle.
Nothing,
awesome.
nothing wrong with that
got
one.
one of those
The
too, it's
combined
awesome.
nose, when you get in there and you do the high and low in the glass, the sherry sweetness and that muskiness really blends pretty well on the nose.
I feel like they put it in the sherry barrel, but they left it in that barrel for a while.
It's
It
well
wasn't
married.
it wasn't a like I'm gonna put this in for a month or 2 or 3 months
Maybe
and call it
those-
sherry finished. Like
No,
it
yeah.
sat there for a minute
Yeah,
and
it's
it combined
married.
well.
So I don't know if they married it in a cask afterwards or whatever, but it's not just like this disjointed
So-
kind of.
No.
If here's what I want to say about it. You definitely, for your old Pulteney fans, it's old Pulteney.
Yeah, it's got a briny note to it.
You don't put your nose on this and go, oh, I
So
don't
beautiful.
know, is that tough? No, it's old Pulteney, baby. And it's there. It brings that. But what else it brings is not disjointed. It's a
No.
very
No.
pleasantly married together whiskey.
They did a great job with that, but you can pull out the different layers in there, and I think those layers are both well done.
I think it's set for a lot longer in the bourbon cask than it did the sherry
That-
cask.
I would agree with that.
But
Yeah,
I mean,
for
I'm
sure.
talking like 25 years in the bourbon cask.
Yeah.
And, 15.
Yeah,
in the
I'm
sherry.
thinking
Maybe
like
130.
33 and 2 maybe.
I mean, it's still wonderful. I get like
Holy
tapioca on the palate, and
Because it's not over sherry. It's lightly sherry.
It's at 35.
Would you agree it's lightly
Pulteney.
sherry or heavily sherry?
I don't think it's heavily sherry at all.
No, but I would say it's not lightly
Oh,
sherried
man.
either. Like it's got a good sherry note to it.
You know, we talk about this every once in a while. It's so hard to say, can you taste age? And I'll tell you right now, it's almost impossible. But if I had to say one thing about this tastes old.
Yeah.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
It
Like
tastes
really
old.
old.
Like
There-
like a
there are-
musty.
There are whiskeys that you taste that you're like, that's an old.
That's an
whiskey."
old ass whiskey.
Right.
That's an old ass whiskey.
And this is an old whiskey. Like
Yeah.
it's got those layers of like musky. Like this is set for a long
Yeah.
time,
An old
right?
wet
Right.
base.
It may not sound great,
Yeah.
but it
But it
means
is.
But it's
Like-
like
Oh, that's some bitch been sitting for a minute.
yeah.
Well, it doesn't have that young, sprightly, like
Well, see,
new character.
Yeah, see,
That's
the
some
thing.
bitch was sitting a minute.
So if they had not put that in a sherry, you think that's been sitting a minute, and maybe, I mean, arguably the milk's gone bad, but not quite. I mean, it's not bad. So I will
I
say,
don't think
Milk
that
ain't
at
going
all.
bad there.
and
No,
I would
that's
agree.
good.
I would agree. If you're drinking 8 to 12-year-old whiskey, that milk would
Okay.
have gone bad.
Okay, so point taken. So clarification. If you didn't know what this was, you poured it to me, would I be like, oh, that's amazing? I'd be like, ooh, something's weird about this. But knowing how old it is, I appreciate it more because I know I'm getting into it.
Yeah.
I would agree
Let
with
me
that.
ask you
Exactly.
this
Old
thing.
whiskey has that.
Maybe that's something that we delve into and really start trying. And it's expensive for us to do it. But I mean, when you get into the older whiskeys, what are we really looking at? It's a different
Is it
perspective.
is it important though? Because that's another thing too.
Well-
If you're going to get something like 25 plus years, you're investing into the years of that.
I know, but I'm also talking about, do I buy a 12-year-old? What am I getting from a 12-year-old whiskey and my investment on that versus a 35? And it's a different whiskey, different thing. And you need to approach it differently
Correct.
than a
Yes.
12.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And
And,
I think
and most
that's where
distillers will tell you
values-
that like 12 to 15 years is the sweet spot.
Yeah.
Sure, absolutely.
But I
Right.
think there are
It's like an
whiskeys.
acquired taste. after-
Exactly.
when
Yeah.
you get the old
So
stuff.
I think what you get
Yeah.
with the older whiskeys is more subtle flavors.
Yes.
I think what they've done with the 35 year here is by adding the sherry. So to me, when I'm making, like, let's say a sauce or a soup,
Yep.
right? And I've got a lot of like earthy flavors, which you would get from a barrel that's been sitting for 25 years or so, right?
Yes.
Like it's old, it's musky, it's got that like earthy tones to it. And if I'm making a sauce or a soup that has like a lot of mushrooms or earthy flavors to it, I'm going to add something that brightens that up. So like a
So it's not so
citrus,
heavy and
a citrus or a
Lemongrass,
sugar.
yeah.
And
Sugar,
so
yeah.
what happens when you do that is it adds a layer of flavor and a dimension that you didn't get before.
Yeah.
Right. And so it brings forward flavors that you couldn't access without that acid or that sugar being introduced. And so it rounds out the flavors and it lets you get to more things. So I think that's what they did with the sherry here, is that they introduced it as a seasoning and it broadened and brightened everything
To what
out.
you're saying there. Yeah.
My other experience, a lot of us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So the way you do an old whiskey wrong is if it's over oaked, it's
Yep.
over tannin.
Yeah.
It's like bitter
Sure.
and
2 by
awful.
4.
Or the opposite.
I
Where
like
you
that
get
point.
one. We've
I
had
see where
ones
you're
that are really
coming from.
old in years. You're like, that tastes like it's nothing.
It's like in an
Tastes
old
nothing.
bourbon
Nothing
cask
at
and
all.
there's nothing
There's no
there.
vibrancy.
There's nothing.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely
I can
nothing.
think of a couple that are sitting on my bar right now that are 20 plus years old that are very
There-
uninteresting and I don't
they
want to
feel
drink them.
dead.
There was
Yeah.
one. It was
Yeah.
a Tullamore
Tullamore
25.
I think I got
Yeah.
over here somewhere. It's like
Um,
you can't give it away.
Yeah.
It's a 5.
There
It
was a
wasn't
Talisker 25. Remember when we went through that flight? We
Yep.
loved the 10, Storm, 18.
Storm was
Hated
really
the
good.
25, loved the 30 type stuff.
And we've tried it 3 times.
Yes.
It's
still
so
bad.
I really
Sweet
appreciate
spot.
your analogy, your talk through that helps me understand how we get to that. How
Yeah,
do I
agree.
explain that?
Well,
So is the Storm still even? Is it available still? Is it done?
Storm,
I
I
like
think
Kim's
so.
comment.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Go ahead
I've
and
seen
put
it
Kim's
recently.
comment up there.
What's that?
Put Kim's comment.
Kim's
So,
Kim's
Kim,
comment.
I agree with you absolutely, but you know what? I also I want to say to that is
It's true.
then take the time.
Well,
Take the time.
I think,
I
that
think
it
that's
just
what you need.
depends. Like there are definitely some older peated whiskeys that I think lose a step,
Yeah,
right?
They lose all
They've
that
lost
peat.
some of that peated aspect
Yep.
that I really enjoy, and sometimes it marries together really well, and you're like, oh, this is delicious. And sometimes it's like, this is a peated whiskey, really?
Part of
Where's
me
the
thinks
rest
so
of it?
that the older the whiskey is, the more time it deserves. I will give it that extra 15 minutes. You know what?
Well,
Okay, that's-
but-
you
but
set 15 more
appreciate
years,
that,
I'll
yeah.
give you
But-
15 more
But
minutes.
sometimes it's just lost a flavor note,
Sure.
right? Over the course of,
Over oxidized.
you know,
Yeah,
Sweet
absolutely.
spot.
absolutely.
I mean, I agree
Over
with that.
sherry.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But they
Yeah,
tell the people the
it-
big bucks.
I'm
that's
sure I
pick it
have
when
a
it's
good
ripe.
handful of
It's
those
like
in my
picking a ripe
bunker
grape.
because I
So-
love that note.
Again, it's your own personal journey.
Right.
It's your palate and your
Yep.
flavor profile, and you go do what you want. But
Yeah.
there are definitely some older whiskeys that maybe aren't worth the money that
From
they're
a
charging,
from a
right?
bourbon perspective, like Pappy 23 is to me vastly inferior to the 15-year-old.
I
It's
believe
like
it.
chewing
What's
on a
the
2 by
price
4.
difference?
Huge.
Huge.
It's like 5-6 times the price. Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's
Yeah.
like you're paying for a trophy,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, it doesn't drink as
Right.
good as some of the other
Oh,
bourbons.
yeah.
Yep.
So
we know how that goes.
to round it back to Bryce and the mom water, what are we looking at in 2023? I mean, we're at the end of 2023.
You're killing it, bro.
Well, what's going on, dude?
We are.
You're a year and a half into this, and you're like freaking trophy hunting.
So you don't regret
You're
changing
killing it.
your job.
We do no.
You don't work there anymore.
No, we
You
don't.
want, you want 4
we went-
Scotch guys, by the way?
Yeah. We might have to do some collabs. So we do have a lot of fun stuff on the docket for 2023. We try to. We're saying we want to be innovative in this industry, which is tough to do because most
Yeah.
people like
All right.
we're like in a we feel like we're trying to be more like Apple, maybe in a like whereas Microsoft tends to take things and make it better. We're trying to like innovate a little more, and it's hard to do. But we do have some innovations coming. So
I'm excited about
good.
it. I'm excited
you know,
about it.
you could probably guess if we were going to do a brand extension this year
From mom water.
from Mom Water, you might guess what it might be.
I'm gonna put 35-year-old
This channel,
in.
maybe, yeah, maybe we'll
I'll buy that.
So I probably wouldn't brand child lock.
Yeah.
That probably wouldn't be good.
Now, unfortunately, Scotch doesn't really pair well with fruit, because Scotch is best enjoyed.
Sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
neat,
Yeah.
right?
Water,
You just kind of ruin it when you put something with it, in my opinion.
In my opinion.
Now, tequila might be a little bit different.
Yeah, okay.
I
like where you're
actually
going.
do like some fruit with my tequila.
So, yeah, we'll maybe have to have maybe we'll have another something.
You might come
Next
back
year.
up.
We
Like
might come
alcohol
back up.
water or something.
Yeah,
Something like that.
maybe.
Oh.
I like
Do
it.
It'd be fun.
All right,
It's
guys,
gonna be a good
we
year.
are out of time. It was a fun
it
show.
was an
Thanks
hour
for
and a
being
half.
with us.
So we've recapped. We finished up the Pete.
Got one
Pete
left.
Monster is what it's at. And we graded it. Bryce and Mom Water. If you guys don't know what Mom Water is, you probably
You're
need
missing
to go
out.
check
Yeah,
it out.
so
really
I
missing
mean,
out.
it's a unique brand in there. Yeah.
I'm not even gonna say it maybe your palate, but it's somebody who knows palate. I promise you that.
Guarantee it.
And if
Especially
I was
when you're
on,
remote.
I've got like 2 college students I can think of.
I
Off the top of my head that would
it's-
enjoy
it's
it.
you,
really
it's
good, yo.
filling
Shotgun 'em.
Yeti coolers across the country. Okay, I guarantee you that. So, Bryce, I appreciate you, man.
No,
Absolutely.
thanks
for
to you
coming on the
guys.
show.
It's been awesome.
Thanks for bringing the
Oh,
old
Hoosier,
Hoosier and all the
man.
other stuff
Absolutely.
by. We appreciate that.
Yeah, this has been a blast. Go.
And not only fellow Hoosier, but fellow Scotch for Dummies subscriber, man.
That's
This
right.
is-
We
this is
appreciate
us.
that
So,
too.
Yep. Long time
To all
fan.
you 56 people are still out there watching,
Let's raise a
Cheers
toast.
to you.
You guys are awesome.
and I love you guys.
All right.
I don't have anything left.
That's
I
your
know, me
problem.
too.
Pour something else.
Something else.
I'll see you guys next week. Cheers.
guys.
3, 2, 1.